This is your eyebrows. But he used to kid me, he said, I had one eyebrow. So they plucked me. I'd never been plucked before. I didn't like being plucked very much. But they plucked my eyebrows. He says, now what are we going to do with this nose? You know, Nicholas talks like this. What are we going to do with this nose? And they started shading it or whatever and trying. I says, and his neck is too thick. My neck is like 16.5 inches. So they put a turtleneck on me to try to slim it down. They did something with my hair. And it was maybe one of the most demeaning experiences I've ever had, and it was not intentional on their part. We start doing the scene. I go up on my lines. Catherine goes up on her lines. We start getting it right, but we're very tense. It's no good. He yells, cut, cut, cut. I remember at one point I pinched very gently Catherine's, probably her right buttocks, as a way to help loosen us up. You know, I kind of patted her and gave her a little, and she turned on me. And we later became friends, but at that moment she just whirled on me and said, don't you ever do that to me again. And suddenly everybody kind of heard it, and the crew and whatever, and I just sat there and they didn't know what was going on. She said, how dare you? I said, sorry, sorry. So I was just trying to, get us relaxed. Sorry. And then if it was bad up to then, it was going to get worse after that. She later apologized. She said it was her own tension too. So we start again. Cut, cut. I mean, we're shooting from 10 in the morning. As I remember, they don't even break for lunch, and this is going on for hours. It's a torture. Went back, somehow finished the scene. Somehow they printed a couple of takes. There wasn't one that was any good. And I went around shaking. I was so relieved when the day was over. They said, that's it, or whatever. And I went around shaking the hands in this room with the crew. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And apparently when I started going from one person to another, I had my hand in my pocket, hands in my pocket. I forgot to thank the prop guy. So I took my hand out of my pocket. I think I may have had my own raincoat on. I was going back. I couldn't wait to go back to New York. And when I took my hand out to shake his hands, subway tokens came out of my pocket. And they weren't big in those days, they were about that size. About 8 or 10 of them, And they all spilled out. And they, people, an LA crew, they don't know what a subway token is, a New York subway token. And he says, no, I'll help you with that, as I started to bend over and pick them up. And he picked them up for me. And he gave them to me. And I remember what he said. He said, here, kid, you're going to need these. She was very excited, my agent. It was like it was good news or something. He wants you to call, I don't know, I'm not sure. I mean, why would a director, if they were going to say no, you didn't get the part, they wouldn't say, call the director tomorrow at such and such an hour. The appointed time came, because we had to wait until noon. It was like noon or something, because it's 3 hours earlier in LA. And I called him, I guess it was his home number. And I think I woke him up. And I thought, oh, shit. Actors always think things like that, because subliminal, subconsciously. He would have said, you got the part, but when you woke him up, he said, you didn't. We always think in those terms. So anyway, I woke up, and I could tell, I said, oh, I'm sorry I woke you. He said, no, that's all right, it's all right. And there was this pause. And I didn't know what to say. I said, you told me to call you? He says, yeah. And then a long, long pause. So I almost thought we were disconnected. And I hear the magic words, which were, well, you got it. Those 4 words. Well, you got it. First week of rehearsal, he knew the right questions. He said, did you have any idols when you were growing up? Who were your idols? Did any movie stars, anybody you... I said, my brother, my big brother. It was just the 2 of us. My brother, Ronnie, so almost 7 years older than me. He asked me one time, he says, does your brother ever get uptight? I said, yeah. He says, well, what happens to him when Ronnie gets uptight? And I could imitate my brother pretty good. You can always imitate the person you worship, if you can imitate anybody. And I said, well, he holds his breath when he's really upset. And he doesn't breathe. He stops breathing. That's how I used to always know he was pissed off at me when we were kids. And then little spurts of air would come out. And he said, well, let's do the scene like that. Just come out to his nostril, they would flare. And I did the scene like that. And Bancroft was wonderful, because she would, you know, she wanted to create her own thing, but she's sitting, she's waiting, because he's focusing on me. Try doing it again now. I did it uptight, my brother uptight. Let's do that scene again. I think it was the thing at the table before we get the room in the hotel. And I don't want to go through with it or something. He says, try doing it again and just forget about your brother now. Just let whatever remnants of, I know this is kind of technical now, you know, but just let the essence of it remain. And I did it. And I sat there with her at the table. Well, Mrs. Robinson, I really don't want, I'm still trying to be him, but I'm not trying to be him, I'm just retaining the essence. And suddenly, came out instead of, it was born. And I wasn't that aware I had done it. But he broke into hysterical laughter. And he has a great laugh, Nichols. He's crying, because she kept on. I kept going, because I was just holding my breath the way my brother did. Well, in the final product in the film, he lays in those a few more places. That's his directorial flourish. And then another example would be that when she's sitting on the bed and she takes, in the hotel room, and she takes her blouse off and she has her bra on, I'm supposed to start to remove her bra or something. And we're trying to work on this. I know a director works like this. Directors just say, okay, do it, and they go for some schlocky comedic thing. I mean, that's something, you know, that's derivative of something you've seen 50, you know. Very few directors are going for that thing, or how to arrive at it. He said, can you tell me about, we'd sit down again, and Bancroft would take a walk. Can you tell me about the first time you ever got laid? I told him. Can you tell me about the first time you ever touched a girl? And suddenly this memory comes back to me. And I was kind of sexually obsessed. Always had been, even before you're supposed to be. And I heard about, and I was telling him all this, and heard about stories about what you do. Some kids said, ninth graders would tell you when you're in the 7th grade, if you want to get a feel, you have to, as a girl's coming down the stairs, you look for a 9th grader because they have the most developed breasts usually. This was guide talk, see? And as the girl's coming down the stairs, you pretend like you're putting on your jacket as you're going up the stairs, and it just happens to grab, you know. I mean, this, you know. And I failed at it. I missed a girl, and she knew what I was doing. She just turned around and started laughing at me, I remember. I went, and just grabbed her face or something, you know. He says, let's try that. He didn't tell Anne Bancroft. So we're doing the scene. It's in the movie. And suddenly, and she takes her shirt off, and I just come over, and he says, try to recreate that scene. And I come around and back. She didn't know what I was going to do. She had no idea. We're just rehearsing this. I come from up behind. Suddenly this hand comes from behind her. This is the great seduction. I just stand there holding it. Not even, because my memory was I didn't even move my hand. And my hand goes there, and she was shocked. And Bancroft just shocked. And she just went like this. Nichols started laughing. Again. Well, I didn't want to break the scene. You're not supposed to break the scene just good. But I started laughing. The whole thing was suddenly, and we're in the middle of the scene, and I just started breaking up. And I did what any actor would do. That's on, because when you're acting, and you might as well be on the stage, is I turned away and walked over to the wall and stood against the wall until I stopped breaking up. And I couldn't stop breaking up, so I started banging my head against the wall, just like this. I was laughing so hard. Just during this rehearsal, and I was just going like this. I was just going like this.